Welcome back to another edition of the Predators official podcast here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming on YouTube and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I'm Brooks Bratton alongside my friends Max Hers and Kara Hammer, who are, by the way, rocking some of the coolest attire I think that exists in the history of the Predators franchise. Before we get into this, do you both mind telling the folks what you're sporting today?
Sure, I'll let Max go first.
I am in one of the podcast recording studios here at Bridgestone Arena. So can I turn my camera around? Will that ruin the podcast? This is groundbreaking territory. Out. Please hold. Let's see if this works. Look at this.
Wow.
Beautiful day in Music
Broadway, City. Tootsies. Wow, what a view. Yeah. But as you can see, I'm in the Spire, the Predators' original shoulder logo, the cell tower at Bridgestone Arena. But there are a lot of sun panels in here, so it's quite warm. So I had to take my Preds sweatshirt off, and I'm representing Mr. Factor, Ryan O'Reilly, 1,000 games. The first ever 1,000th game I was ever on the call for in the NHL, and a great Pred, so had to rep.
All right, Max and I had no communication on this morning when we got dressed, but I woke up this morning and I was thinking about Steven Stamkos last night, how amazing that was to pick up a point. But I also thought, how about this? Let's bring the passion. That's what Terry Crisp would say. That's what the Preds did. Also, we're coming off a big week. Terry Crisp, our good friend Pete Weber, inducted into the Predators Golden Hall. So I woke up this morning and I was feeling it. I'm bummed about the 2 points. I'm going to let you guys break it down since you were both in attendance. But I don't know, man. At the end of the game, I was going crazy.
Well, we were just talking about it before we came on the air, talking about how many people are watching on YouTube. So as if you didn't have incentive enough to watch on YouTube, if you're missing Kara and Max, what they're sporting today, then you're really missing out. So jump on, watch it in person. Their attire is amazing. I am incredibly boring today, but that's beside the point. As Kara alluded to, a lot to get to. Matthew Wood's finding the back of the net. Ozzy Wiesblatt's becoming annoying, which is great. An interview with Filip Forsberg ahead of the big Sweden trip next week. Of course, our Biggie Awesome Person of the Week as well. But I'm sure we can all guess where we're going to start as we record on Wednesday, November 5th in the afternoon. So the Predators started the week with a back-to-back set, a 5-4 overtime loss to Vancouver on Monday in Nashville. The Preds battle back to get a point, score twice in the third before losing with just 2 seconds left in OT. One heartbreaker there. Then on Tuesday night in Minnesota, one of the more dramatic, strange, weird, crazy endings to a game in franchise history. So the Predators are down 2-1 late in regulation with 0.3 seconds remaining on the clock. Nick Blankenburg finds Steven Stamkos for a one-timer, just barely beats the buzzer. Take a look at that.
Taken there by Eriksson Ek. It's kept in 2 seconds. Stamkos one-timer. He scores! Steven Stamkos ties it. That's going to count. They're going to double check.
What a shot. We just talking about Stamkos, and there's his patented stammer hammer. Right in the back. I don't know how much time it went in before it expired, but they kept that puck alive. They kept it in. I thought the game was over. And Blankenburg from the board. This is a good shot. Get it to the net. Bouncing around everywhere. It gets out. They're trying to ice it. Blankenburg keeps it in. Goes all the way across the ice. And Stammer rips it. Top corner. What a shot.
Here it is.
That's vintage Steve Stamkos right there. Just a laser top shelf.
Okay, so Stammer ties the game incredibly late, breaks out of a slump. So we're going to overtime again. And then in the extra session, controversy.
To the trailer. Back to Kaprizov. The net got knocked off. But they're going to go. They're going to call a goal. They're going to call a goal.
Wow, I don't know if you can do that.
That's
the horn hasn't sounded.
It wasn't intentional. They're going to huddle up here.
Burnett has thrown his hands up. He has.
I think you have to deem that was intentional.
They're going to look at it. They're going to look at it, Mace. They're going right to the headset.
Like that has happened before in the game. He's coming across hard to make sure that shot he's covered. That's
not intentional.
He's trying to push. when you're a goalie in that situation,
Try to squeeze to the post, right,
you
mate?
try to squeeze to the post, and he's trying to push off. He's pushed his arm out, so that it does look a little like he might have meant to do that, but you're trying to use the post. If it's in its moorings, if it's in there properly, you're using the post to push off against, to try to get back to the back door. And the net just went off. He didn't lift it.
And not to mention, he missed the shot.
Yeah.
That was not going in. You can see.
Okay, so there you see those clips. So what happened, and I'm sure everybody has had a chance to at least see it in some form or digest it a little bit. Stamkos tied the game with the extra attacker. The Predators go to overtime. In the extra session, the Wild were awarded the winning goal after Predators goaltender Justus Annunen. He pushed from side to side, knocked the net off the moorings in its process. At that point, Wild forward Marcus Johansson, as you saw, eventually shot the puck over the goal line where the net would have been. In that moment, it was awarded a goal by Trevor Hansen, the referee on the ice, by the net that the Preds were defending. So then following the review, the goal was allowed to stand, sending the Preds home with a single point instead of two. And Steven Stamkos, former captain in the NHL, he's done the media thing a bunch, obviously, in his career. He had a really great explanation on what he heard from the officials and just in the moment being on the ice. Here was what he had to say post-game and his interpretation of the play.
It's a weird play. I mean, I can see the confusion, but the confusing part for us was why it was so emphatically called a goal. I get it. Listen, the net came off, but if the puck goes in right away, no problem if the net's off. But he missed the net, and the puck actually bounced back to him because the net was sideways, and then he hit the back of the net, and it popped back. So my interpretation of the rule is that, if the net wasn't off, that puck wouldn't have came back to him to have an open net. It would have went behind the net, and then the play would have been blown dead because the net was off. I understand the net came off. I don't think there was any intent from our goaltender to knock it off. It came off twice today, but from our vantage point, it's obviously going to differ from theirs, but we thought the puck came back to him on the second attempt because the net was off. If not, the puck goes behind the net, and we live to fight another day. So that's where we didn't agree with the call.
Yeah. You have to be just happy with the way that you guys played and to at least get the point there. The last
we deserved a lot better, for sure. One of our better games of the season, for sure. Tough building to play in. I thought we dictated the play for most of the night, had the offensive zone pressure. So obviously nice to get a point, but certainly deserved better, I thought.
What did you see at the final seconds of your tying goal there?
Well, I took a peek at the clock with about 8 seconds left, so I knew any, opportunity we were going to have, we have to get the puck off quick, and we did a great job, again, of controlling the puck. We had some looks, some retrievals, some battles, and just tried to get a shot off. Got a nice pass from Blanky, and obviously nice to see that going.
Even that final overtime aside, it does feel like you guys dominated the play. Just how I know there's no moral victory in that, but it has to feel pretty good with the way you guys performed from top to bottom.
Yeah, like I said, I thought that was one of our better efforts of the year in terms of offensive zone pressure, having pucks, putting them in the right areas, creating scoring chances. So, hopefully it's just a matter of time before we start getting some bounces ourselves.
So Max and Kara, first off, an excellent, well-thought-out answer from Steven Stamkos there. I think we were all pretty impressed with that, just simply after the fact, how he was able to articulate the way that things played out and how the Predators were viewing things. But we want to present the facts here. So the explanation that the NHL put out last night, and I want to read this, the NHL says that video review supported the referee's call on the ice, that the actions of Nashville's Justus Annunen caused the net to be displaced prior to the puck crossing the goal line. Therefore, the referees awarded Minnesota's Marcus Johansson with a goal. The decision was made in accordance with Rule 63.7, which states, in the event that the goalpost is displaced, either deliberately or accidentally, I think that's a key point. A lot of folks on social media going back and forth, did Annunen do it deliberately, accidentally? It doesn't matter. Either deliberately or accidentally, by a defending player prior to the puck crossing the goal line between the normal position of the goalposts, the referee may award a goal. In order to award a goal in this situation, the goalpost must have been displaced by the actions of a defending player. the attacking player must have an imminent scoring opportunity prior to the goalpost being displaced, and it must be determined that the puck would have entered the net between the normal position of the goalposts. Obviously, this is not a super simple rule. There's a lot that comes into play here. Was the net knocked off? Yes. Whether deliberate or accidental, doesn't matter. An imminent scoring opportunity? Yes, absolutely. The determination of the puck would have entered the net between the goalposts. I think that's where it gets a little hairy. That's where the officials on the ice and the NHL saw one thing. The Predators are obviously going to view it differently. Therein lies the confusion. And Max, that's what we were dealing with post-game as Steven Stamkos gave his explanation. And at the end of the night, the Predators only come away with 1 point.
Yeah, they made an assumption that that was going to be a goal, and I think the Predators have a case against that. The thing that really bothered me about this, Brooks, other than the result of the game, is that at no point in this process did either referee get on the microphone to explain to the fans, the teams, and us, the media, who relay these things to the fans, what the call was. And it was obvious. They pointed that it was a goal. They went to review. They said it was still a goal. I understand that's what the review was, but you got to tell us what's going on. It's a game-deciding review. So that was what really bothered me. We did not hear from Jussi Saarinen in an interview post-game. I look forward to speaking to him on Thursday to get his point of view of the play, and he's pushing off the post. I don't think he's trying to push the net off, but he's trying to come across to make a last-ditch game-saving save. So it's a tough way to lose, and the puck really never went in the net. It took Johansson 2 tries to put it in. So it's frustrating for a lot of reasons, and the Preds deserve better in that game. They played well enough to win that game. They had some great scoring chances, especially in the first period, and it's a tough one to lose, playing really well on the back end of a back-to-back against a well-rested division opponent. That's your rival.
I think the one thing about it is the way the game ended, because now this is what we're talking about. Had Minnesota come out and scored and the Preds would have lost anyway, we would be talking about Steven Stamkos' last-second goal to push this game into overtime to pick up the point, and we would be focused on that, and we would be excited that Stammer was able to find the back of the net. I mean, that was a Hall of Fame play. That's the guy you want in that situation, who was able to execute. But now here we are talking about the overtime because of the controversy surrounding the goal.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest there. And, I always go back to something that friend of the show, Elliot Friedman, says in moments like this, in a goal review that is a bit complicated. Would you be okay with the Stanley Cup being awarded on a goal like this? Because that could be the case one day. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. Would you be okay with that? I don't know. So I think regardless, Max, as you said, that it is what it is. And that's what Andrew Brunette said post-game. The Predators saw it one way. The officials saw it another way. You've got to move on. Something else that Willie Donick, I think, did a great job of pointing out on the Predators broadcast, as we saw at the very end of the game, the decision has been made. Steven Stamkos has gotten an explanation. Andrew Brunette has gotten an explanation. Neither one of them are satisfied. But Willie pointed out that Andrew Brunette looked right at Steven Stamkos as they were headed off the ice and said, hey, big goal. Let's not overlook that, as you said, Kara. That's a big deal that Steven Stamkos to get off the schneid, tie the game with 0.3 seconds to go. You wanted 2 points. You feel like you deserve 2 points, but you still got one. And that was a big road game to go into Minnesota against a rested team, get a point, and then come back home now.
Going off of Elliot's point, weren't we all feeling that just recently in Game 7 of the World Series? When you're looking at the play at the plate and you're wondering if they're going to review it and call him safe? We've all been there.
Kara and I were watching that game together with our boy Willie and our best friend Nick Barnowski at Ziggy's Pub at the bar. And it was at the point where it's just like, I'd rather the team I'm not rooting for win than have Game 7 end on a video review. So, yeah, it's a November regular season game, but it's an overtime goal. It's a game-deciding goal. And did the Wild deserve a goal? Were they going to score anyway? Possibly. Probably. But that's not how you want to see a game end.
Absolutely. We may never know. So we got on the plane with 1 point, came back to Nashville, and we talked about it at the top, too. The Predators have come back in the third period in 2 straight games. You love that fight. You'll always take 1 point as opposed to no points. Obviously, you want to win, But again, Steven Stamkos with the big goal to tie it up. How does he respond from that? Does that get him going? We know it's been a long time since Stammer put the puck in the net. The Predators need more from him. We all know that. He wants more from himself. He's not used to going through stretches like this, but really eager to see how he responds to get that big goal moving forward. Will that get him going? Someone else who's going, Matthew Wood. He scored his first NHL goal last Thursday in Philadelphia, got his second a game later against Calgary, and then another Tuesday night in Minnesota. Max Kara, how good has he been, and why has he been so effective here in the early going, coming back up from Milwaukee after he was injured during training camp?
How about your first 3 NHL goals in 6 days? That's a pretty good way to get your first 3 in a busy schedule, too. 3 goals, 4 games over the last week for Wood, and he just looks so comfortable. He looks so much older, more mature, better in every aspect than he was at the end of last season. And last season, he was a pleasant surprise of how NHL ready he was. The Preds thought they weren't going to play him in every game down the stretch. He ended up playing in them all, and he looked pretty good. And now this year, he's doing everything. I love that goal in Minnesota. He just hangs out at the end of a power play shift. He's going to the bench. He's pretty close to the bench, but he sees his fourth line as winning the puck, and it never left the offensive zone, so he just parks it net front, sets up a 2-on-0 down low, which Mike McCarron executes perfectly. And Kara, we just see these moments with Wood. It's hockey IQ and that physical skill coming together for a guy who's just 20 years old and is still growing into his body.
Yeah, I think we have to give a lot of credit to his dad. His dad is a coach, so he's grown up around the game in this lifestyle. He's traveled all over, played all over. But I think you hit on it, Max. He looks comfortable on the ice. And we know that the coaches were high on him at training camp. It was frustrating for him to get injured and have to start in Milwaukee when really he should have been here on opening night. And it's proving why what everybody was seeing this offseason.
100%. And you guys mentioned the comfortability. He's got so much more confidence too. That's the one thing that stood out for me, especially after he got his first finally in Philadelphia, because he's had so many chances. He's had only played a handful of games to that point, but he could have had at least 2, 3, 4 goals already. It was clearly evident to me once he got the first one in Philly, the confidence boost that has come with that. He's shooting the puck basically any chance he gets now. I don't think that was necessarily the case before that first one came. So good for Matt Wood. He's a great kid, and he's really coming into his own here in the early stages of his career, showing that, yes, all that work that he's put in the offseason, all the work he put in training camp, showing that he was essentially ready to make the team on opening night. It's coming to fruition now. Good for him. The Predators are going to need more of it moving forward. And someone else, another rookie who's making an impact, hasn't scored his official first goal yet, although he did score in a shootout. The rare distinction of having your count it. I agree. The rare distinction of having your first shootout goal before your first NHL goal. Ozzy Wiesblatt, he hit the post on Tuesday night, shorthanded in Minnesota, but he has certainly been effective. Last Saturday against Calgary, hitting everything that moved. And his line mate, Michael McCarron, was asked recently what it's like to play with Nashville's newest pest. Here's what number 47 had to say on his line mate.
Doing it than you do?
Yeah, I mean, he's effective. Guys, seems like every game someone's coming up to me saying, what's wrong with this kid? Like, what's he doing? But, yeah, he's effective. He's a little rat. He's good. He's a good player. He's good with the puck. He can make plays, and he's sneaky physical. Like, he knows when to catch guys, knows how to catch guys. Like, it's a skill to be able to hit guys like that, like the way he does. So, kudos to him. Yeah, he's playing really good. He's playing hard, and he's not really changed the way he plays for anybody, which is great to see for a young kid. And, yeah, hopefully he can keep going and create some more ruckus out there.
So there you hear Mike McCarron say, Ozzy, he's a little bit of a rat. And some guys are like, hey, what is up with this dude? Does anybody really know? Who knows? But it's working out for the Preds.
I'm still trying to figure it out too, Brooks, and I get to see Ozzy play every single game. I've been there for all 17 games he's played in the NHL now, and there's still little moments where I'm like, ooh, like short fuse, like here we go. Ozzy's about to change the game. And I loved everything McCarron said about Wiesblatt, and he's well qualified to speak about him too. He doesn't talk a lot. He just goes out there, he bumps you. He bumps you after a whistle. He'll run you, even if you're 10 inches taller than him, which has happened a couple times already this season. And my favorite part of that Flames game, he got matching minors with Braden Pahal. Good old scrap between two Western League boys. Jay Moore was absolutely loving it on Preds radio. And they go off together, and Pahal was yelling at the ref. So he got a 10 on top of the matching twos. Pahal didn't come back until early in the third period. First shift for Pahal, Ozzy is right there on him, dead puck, just pushing him and shooting the puck at him. It's so great. I mean, there is an art to this, and Ozzy Wiesblatt is so comfortable in his own skin. He just gets it, and he makes an impact on the game with it.
I feel like I heard somebody say this, Ozzy Osblatt, and I feel like he's on a crazy train right now.
Yes.
All right.
I love that. No, I love that. Yeah, that's a great point, Max, that you made too about like he doesn't talk, right? Like basically everybody out there, if you're running around, you're then yapping after the fact. He doesn't. And that is a skill on its own to be able to play like that, but then be like, yeah, do what you want. Yell at me, scream at me, give me a dirty look, whatever. I don't care. So Ozzy Wiesblatt, making it fun. We're trying to keep it fun out here. And
We're trying to keep it fun. Let's talk about Filip Forsberg. I saw Max do it. Let's talk about the goal celebration that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed Phil after the first period goal on Monday night. I said, hey, that's a goal celebration. We haven't seen that one yet. He told me that his friend Michael texted him in the morning and said, go gorilla mode. But think about the mindset of number 9 to come out, score the goal, and think, I'm going gorilla.
So good. And that was his best game of the season, for sure, against the Canucks at Bridgestone Arena on Monday night. And he took that game over. He does what the leading goal scorer in Nashville Predators history should be doing. And it was so great to see Forsberg play in space, play with the puck, take that game over. And it was really funny, Kara, because you and I do our first intermission interviews at the same time at the home games, and we start in historic Studio H, which you call home, and then we split up. You go to the Lexus Lounge for yours. My player comes to me, nice little room service in Studio H. And I had Brady Shea, who had the assist on the goal for my interview. And I asked him, what was that celebration from Phil, King Kong? And Brady goes, I have no idea. I'm going to have to ask him after the game. And Phil's just like, yeah, went gorilla mode. Come on, everybody.
Duh. Everybody knows that. So no, there's some bright spots. And I think for the Predators, you're a month into the season now. And at some point, you're going to have to start stringing some more wins together, but they're finding ways to get points. They're not giving up in games. You can feel that difference in that regard from last season. And again, the wins are what matter most. You need more points in the standings, but there are signs. And Andrew Brunette keeps saying, this stretch is especially, it's a really compact, tight stretch. Sometimes things aren't always going to go well, but Brunette has said you can see the other end of it. If you can make it through this and not get too far down the standings, you're in a decent spot. So the Predators will continue to try to gain points Thursday at home against Philadelphia, Saturday afternoon at home against Dallas, the send-off to Sweden, and as Max is alluding to, Filip Forsberg mustache bobblehead day.
Bobble
mustache, yes. The mustache
right.
itself moves. Monday at New York, the Rangers, and then the Preds are jetting off to Sweden, 2 games against Pittsburgh next Friday and Sunday. So looking forward to talking more about that. But guys, the games just keep coming, and the Preds got to find a way to get a few wins here.
Well, I think the fight they showed in these last 2 games, yeah, overtime losses, you want to win. But those are the 8th and 9th games in 15 days for the Preds. They've had back-to-backs, double over, with no back-to-back days off at any point for over 2 weeks. So I think that fight means something. And the condensed games are worth it because Sweden is going to be so amazing. Coming up next, our Swedish ambassador, Filip Forsberg, will talk with Brooks Bratton about the trip to Sweden, what to expect, and what he's looking forward to here on the Predators official podcast on ESPN 102.5 The Game and Nashville Predators YouTube.
Welcome back to the Predators official podcast here on ESPN 102.5 The Game and YouTube. I'm Brooks Bratton of NashvillePredators.com, and it's always a pleasure to have our next guest in conversation, Predators forward Filip Forsberg. And Phil, first off, welcome back to the POP. It's been a minute since we've done one of these, but it's good to have you back again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me back. It's good to be on.
Of course. And the reason we wanted to have you on, especially at this time of year, we know there's a lot of anticipation as we get set to head back to your home country of Sweden to play a couple of NHL hockey games, something that not a lot of people get to do. We're usually here in North America, obviously, but the chance to get to do it in Europe is something very exciting. And of course, in your home, where is your anticipation, your excitement level to play NHL games in your home country?
It's through the roof. Obviously, it's one of these things that you've always been dreaming about, really, since NHL started coming to Europe and to Sweden specifically. And fortunate enough to go to Prague a couple of years ago, which was great. But at the time, we didn't have any Czech players, so it was cool. But this is going to be a lot more special, personally, obviously, and can't wait to bring the guys over there.
What was your reaction, your first reaction, when you initially heard that, hey, the Preds are going to Stockholm?
Obviously a very, very happy, very excited. It's one of these, like I said, it's just, I didn't think we'd get the chance to go to Europe again just because we were there fairly recently. So I guess it was a door that was pretty much closed. But yeah, it was, once it was slammed open, obviously it was a great feeling, and I'm really excited.
So take me back to growing up in Sweden, and specifically the hockey culture. Like, what does Swedes think of hockey? What is it like to grow up and kind of being involved in the game?
It's great. Obviously, I think it's a little bit depending on where you're from. Same as in the U.S., I guess. But where I'm from, the hockey is everything. It runs the whole city pretty much. The little town Leksand, where I'm from, is a town of 10,000-ish people, and has a rink that's almost 8,000, and they sell it out pretty regularly. And it's just a history, goes back to the early 1900s when the team started. And it's a great place for kids to grow up, to start playing hockey, and I think that goes for a lot of the country as well. It's even up to this day, it's still probably one of the favorite sports in the country. And obviously we've had some good success on all levels internationally, and that hopefully will continue.
So for you, what do you remember specifically about growing up and playing? What are some of your earliest memories of being on the ice there?
A lot of them are just going to tournaments with your youth team. I played for Leksand pretty much from I don't know when you start, like first team is like PV or six years old, something like that, all the way up to the pro team before I came here. And it's obviously a really cool way you can do it over there, is that it's basically like you played for the junior Preds, and then you just when you're good enough, you've got to play for us, and I think it's obviously a little different than what it's going on here with the draft and everything. But those early memories are going on the bus, going to tournaments, playing our regular season, so to speak. We had probably 20 teams in our state that were all within an hour about, which is very different from Nashville hockey. But it's something that you can't really take for granted, and it was such a cool experience when you look back on it.
So I'm always curious, like for me, I'm American. I grew up watching the NHL, going to NHL games. For someone who's from Europe and specifically Sweden, like, is the NHL the goal when you're young? Do you dream about the NHL, or is it more about playing for your hometown team and then maybe we'll see what happens?
Yeah, I think that was definitely the case for me. I mean, the first dream is like you said, that, and obviously the Swedish national team. Growing up watching them in the Olympics and the World Championships, which is a really big deal over there every year, and that's kind of where your dream started. But growing up in Leksand and just seeing, going to the fan meet and greets and things like that when you're a kid with my brother and getting autographs from guys there, that's obviously the first dream, and that you want to be able to play for the pro team. And I was fortunate to get to do that for 2.5 years before I came here. And like I said, I think NHL is something that, at least at that point now, it's a little different because the access is a lot better to kids to the NHL now, obviously, which is a great thing with European games being early and stuff like that. Kids can watch it back home, but we didn't really have that as much when I grew up. So NHL wasn't really necessarily available until you got older and you started realizing what it was. And at that point, obviously, the dream kind of shifted over to that. And fortunate to have been able to fulfill a few of those dreams, at least so far.
Yeah. When do you remember when that was specifically, when you were like, hey, this may actually happen, this NHL dream, this may be in my future?
Probably my draft year, I would say. Like maybe getting drafted was obviously the big big step, I guess. But even that year of leading up to it, having meetings with scouts and things like that, and kind of seeing some of those rankings where it was, expected to be drafted fairly high. And so I think at that point is kind of when it started to become more real in a way. And obviously getting drafted was a step up. And then I guess at that point, the plan wasn't to be here. Obviously, as we all know, the plan was to be in another team. And from the moment I got traded, obviously there was very quick turnaround from getting traded to actually playing. And it's the best thing that's ever happened.
So you've been here for over a decade now in Nashville. How many Preds fans are there back in your hometown now?
A ton, which is great. You see kids obviously in the summer with Preds hats and the odd jersey and T-shirts and things like that, which is awesome. So at least we put Nashville on the map for my hometown, but even the state. It's like I said, it's a very very passionate hockey state, and they all love like sand. And since I came out of there, they're loyal by default almost to the Preds as well, and that means a lot obviously when you see that.
Well, and it's easy, at least from a Nationals perspective, with the colors too, right? Preds and Sweden, very similar colors. That's kind of an easy transition there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's great for whenever I play with national team. I don't have to change my running shoes too much at all, and the tape and stuff, so it's easy.
Nice. Okay, so what's the plan for when we do go over? How many family, friends? What are you expecting in that regard?
Nothing too crazy. This is one of those opportunities when you obviously want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to experience it. But the good thing, I guess, in situations like this is my family is not the biggest. It's don't have, like, I'm the oldest. My brother just had his first baby, but he's a couple weeks old. So there's no nieces and nephews and things like that yet, which I'm really excited about at some point. But right now the family is fairly small, which makes tickets a lot easier for the wallet, which is good. But obviously a lot of friends and people that you want to be there, we're going to try to make it happen for them as well.
Nice. And will your little one be making the trip?
Yeah. By now he's not missing anything, so he'll be there.
I know that. I mean, at this point, he's probably not going to remember it. But for you to have him there in games in your home country, how much you looking forward to that as a dad?
Oh, it's going to be awesome. We played the Worlds in Stockholm this spring, and that was great. Seeing the same thing, you represent your country with your son and obviously your American wife in the stands, but she's a Swede now, and it's going to be, in a way, a lot more special to playing for Preds, just with everything that has happened over here in the last decade plus, like you said. And it's going to be really cool to have them in there. And together with, like you said, Swedish family, Swedish friends, and all the teammates, obviously.
Okay, so let's end on this. For those of us who are going, and I know that there's a lot of Preds fans planning on making the trip, what are maybe some things people should make sure they do, sights to see, food to eat? What should they expect headed into your home country?
Meatballs. It's obviously the most basic answer, but they are whatever Swedish meatballs that people have had over here. It's not the real thing. So you got to make sure they check out that, go to a nice little restaurant and order the meatballs, and come back and talk about it after. But other than that, I think there's a couple cool museums, but it's kind of like even here in Nashville, and if I go to Stockholm, I'm not necessarily touristing too much, it's like if I'm in Nashville, I don't necessarily go to the Country Hall of Fame, which is probably unbelievable. But same thing in Stockholm. I know there's the Vasa Museum with the old ship, and there's the ABBA Museum. There's a bunch of cool stuff like that. Like Old Town is really cool, so I can highly recommend that. And but like I said, I probably not the right one. You have to ask Willie about a couple of these things. He's local, born and bred down there, so he'll know a little bit more. But I think that's meatballs. You can't go wrong with that.
We will check in with Willie before we head over there. But yes, I was going to say the meatballs are top of my list for sure. So as long as I get some Swedish meatballs for your recommendation, I think that's good to go. Hey, Phil, we're really excited for the trip, and certainly looking forward to everything that'll come with that, and to see you in your home country. But it's always a pleasure. Thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much. And see you in Sweden.
Absolutely. That's Filip Forsberg. We'll be back with more in just a moment on the Preds Official Podcast.
Welcome back to the Predators Official Podcast, where we are bringing the passion. As we mentioned to start the show, Pete Weber, Terry Crisp, both inducted into the Predators Golden Hall. As we know, that came they were announced by Pecorine, right? Informed them that that's where they were going. They talked about how special that was. But guys, we had the chance after the game where they were inducted during the first intermission for all the fans, for everybody to cheer them. We had a chance to go to the Bet MGM Lounge and celebrate them a little bit more. And what a great night for two of our favorite people. And as Dan Kesmer, former defenseman for the Nashville Predators, told me, Crispy, he's a legend.
What a legend. I mean, such a great day to have those guys, their families, their extended hockey families here. First, I got to give a big shout out to a man who I was too intimidated to introduce myself to. That's the mustache himself, Lanny McDonald, 1989 Calgary Flames Stanley Cup champion, Terry Crisp, one of the most famous people in hockey. He was in the building with a tour of Flames fans that just happened to be here for Crispy's big day, and he was there post-game in the BetMGM Sports Lounge. He's the guy who calls you when you go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, so I guess I'll have to wait for that moment to talk to him, which is never coming for me, obviously. I was a little nervous to talk to Lanny. I didn't get it done, but it was so great to have Pete's family there, Crispy's family there, Claudia Weber, Sheila Crisp, his son Tony Crisp in the building. So cool to have the crew together, and what a special day. It went so perfectly. The intermission was a great time to do it. All part of a big Preds win, much needed on home ice. Pete and Terry got it done for the boys. An early 3-0 lead held up.
Well, I think that post-game celebration, just you get a sense of how important those guys are. And we've talked about it. I mean, we had the whole episode with them, obviously, and just what they mean to this franchise, how they were just as popular, if not more popular than all the players in the early days. You could still probably argue that today. But the folks who were in attendance, David Poyle, Andrew Brunette, Barry Trotz, everybody from those early days, and just to see everybody together and hear some of the stories and that Pete and Crispy talk about, and some of their on-air hijinks and shenanigans that Pete has a file for on the tick for every blooper that was ever uttered on the air. But it was a great moment to honor those guys, as you said, and just what they mean. And thanks to them again for joining us for the entire episode last time around. It was great to talk to them. I hope everybody really enjoyed that conversation. But I think the word legend can often be thrown around a little bit too much, but you can't say it enough about the two of them.
Everybody who didn't listen last week, go back and watch that episode on Preds YouTube. Pete and Terry and Pete and Terry's Tavern going for an hour. Kara, that is priceless footage.
I have to go with Brooks talking about people in attendance. David Poyle, for David Poyle to get up and give one of the opening speeches about Pete and Terry and talked about their importance in Nashville and for hockey. And you think about this, we're broadcasters. That's what their role has been. But for the general manager to understand what they've brought when he's the guy in charge of bringing in the players, putting the product on the ice, I think that just showed what they mean coming from a person like David Poyle.
100%. And you just get that feeling all over again. I often say that, and I might have said this last time around, but when I see old clips or hear old stories of Pete and Terry, it makes me bummed out that I didn't grow up here, that I wasn't kind of raised on them as broadcasters and learning about the game and becoming a hockey fan, because it just seems like such a wonderful experience to learn the game from them and have them be kind of your introduction. And I think that was one of the coolest things in getting to talk to some of our colleagues, some of the fellow Preds broadcasters, about what Pete and Terry have done for them. I think that was such a big thing that, Willie Donick alluded to. Like, these guys were the Predators in the early days, and they meant so much to building the game and growing the game and bringing people in, that it wasn't, not that you wouldn't want to watch the games on television, but there was even more incentive to say, hey, I want to hear what Pete and Terry have to say. I want to go hang out with them for 3 hours. Yeah, like, I'm excited to watch the hockey game too, but this is such a bonus. And the way that they became ingrained in the franchise and among the fan base, I love the point that Willie made too, that you could make the argument that without the ability of Pete and Terry to build that fan base in the early days, would you have had the fan support to keep the team here when times were tough? That may not have been the case. And I think a lot of that is owed to what those two did in the early days. And people fell in love with the game in part because of what Pete and Terry did in the early going.
And it's a mutual respect. How many times did we hear Crispy talking about cell block 303 and what they brought and the chants? He goes, I love the chants.
So good. And these guys, to use an ultimate hockey cliche to put a bow on it, they set the tone in 1,000 different ways for Predators hockey, for the Preds fan base, for the Preds team, and for Preds broadcasters in perpetuity, as Pete and Crispy would say. So nevertheless, congrats to those guys, Pete and Terry. We love you both so much. What an awesome day. They're getting their gold jackets. They actually are still getting them touched up to make sure they are perfect, and they will be rocking them later on this year. I feel like Pete and Crispy will just come in unannounced with them on, coordinated one day, knowing those two fools. So the second class of the Predators Golden Hall, the new team Hall of Fame in year 2, Pete Weber and Terry Crisp. Balloting is open for year number 3. Tweet at Brooks Bratton who you want to be in the Preds Golden Hall. It is an informal balloting process, but Brooks will be tabulating. So get ready for those, Brooksy.
I would love to see, and I would love to pass them along to the people that make those decisions. Honestly, like
It's not you.
It's not me, unfortunately.
All right,
Not
never
yet.
mind. Don't
Not yet,
tweet
at
at
least.
him.
No, do tweet at me because I have connections.
Oh, okay. That's good because I don't know who's in charge because I didn't get to talk to Lanny McDonald, so I have no idea. Oh, that's a different Hall of Fame. Never mind.
Yeah.
That is one that we need to get Pete Weber in. I will be nominating him for the Foster Hewitt Award every single year for the rest of my life until he wins it. So that's one that Pete will be getting, but Golden Hall comes first.
100%. Yeah, we got to get him in the big one up in Toronto. That'll come one day. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap things up. Pete and Terry, they're in the Golden Hall, and we're excited to bring you the Preds official podcast here on ESPN 102.5 The Game and YouTube. Back to wrap things up in just a moment. Fourth and final segment here on the Predators official podcast. November 5th, Wednesday, as we record this episode. I'm Brooks Bratton alongside Max Hers and Kara Hammer. A pleasure to be back with you as Max shows off the Batman building, something you can only see if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you're doing that. The Biggie Awesome Person of the Week. We love to give this out, of course, in honor of the late wife of Willie Donick, Erin Donick, a wonderful person, and we miss her dearly, and it's our way of honoring her. And Hammer, we have named our Biggie Awesome Person of the Week.
I mean, it's got to go to the Stammer. How about Steven Stamkos? 0.3 seconds left? 3 seconds left to hit the one-timer, tie the game, push us into overtime. Obviously, we talked about the controversy of the overtime goal, but this was a big goal for Steven Stamkos. We know he's been a little quiet on the score sheet up to this point, but I thought that was awesome. So we know Erin Donick would have loved that. Steven Stamkos, you're awesome. You're our Biggie winner of the week.
I think it's perfect, and I think Erin is the one who could break you out of a 9-game pointless streak by saying, Stammer, you're doing so great. You're going to score so many goals. I love you so much. I could just smash your face in.
Speaking of that, Barry Trotz told me that one time he used to look for Erin in the building. When the team wasn't doing well, when things weren't going well or things weren't good, he said sometimes he would scope out Erin in the lounge because he knew she would give a pep talk. She would make him feel better. She would turn things right. So that's it, Max. That's exactly it.
Oh, that's great Big E stuff right there.
And one more note on Stamkos's goal. He pulled the Predators even in the game, of course, tying Mikael Granlund, who scored at 59-59 on February 27th, 2020, for the latest game-tying goal in franchise history. So a little bit of history last night as well, as Steven Stamkos joins Mikael Granlund in the Predators record books. Hey, you can join the conversation anytime. You can use hashtag Preds Podcast on social media, or you can comment on our YouTube link in the comments section. And we did get a question from YouTube. They want to know, who do we think the most under the radar prospects in the Preds system? And Max, you've got a thought here?
I have an answer. You can let me know if you guys disagree or not. It's Cole O'Hara, the most under the radar prospect in the Predators system. He was the oldest player in rookie camp this year because he was a 3-year college guy at UMass. He was drafted in 2022 in the 4th round. He's now 23, and he really flashed some skill at rookie camp and in training camp with the big boys and in some preseason games. So I'm going to say Cole O'Hara because he's an older guy playing his first full AHL season right now after debuting for the Admirals in the spring last year. I will say Cole O'Hara is the Predators' most under-the-radar prospect.
Love it. Excellent answer. I'll give you one that I don't know that he's under the radar, but it's worth mentioning. Igor Surin over in the KHL has 10 goals already in 22 games. He's just 19, right? Not too shabby. So
he is geographically under the radar. I think from a hockey perspective, he's not under the radar, but that would have been my second answer because he's a world away right now in Russia. So that was my kind of thought as well. But I like that answer, Brooks. It might be cheating a little bit. I don't know, but I like it.
No, I thank you very much. We all know that he's out there and he's scoring goals, but just worth mentioning that he's off to a hot start over there in the KHL.
You got to remember, Brooks, when asked about what his game is like on the ice, Surin said, "I have 2 years left on my contract in Russia." So that really sums up his game right there.
Nice. There you go. All you need to know. I wanted to mention too, Rick just left a comment that said, normally I just listen to the Preds official podcast, but after listening to it, I had to watch this one, Love Crispy and Weber. That was on the Pete and Terry episode, of course. So again, another reigning endorsement for watching. If you're only listening, jump on over to YouTube and you can not only see Max and Kara's lovely attire, but all the things that Max was holding up in the prop world as we were having our discussion in the first segment. And then I wanted to mention too, a gentleman who stopped me post game the other day, Dusty, I think is his name, just to say how appreciative he is of the show. So we always appreciate that. That's one of my favorite things about what we get to do is when, I love to see folks at Bridgestone Arena or just out and about in Nashville. We certainly appreciate it. If you're enjoying the pod or, enjoying Max on the radio or reading one of my stories or seeing Kara on TV and, you want to let us know, we certainly really do appreciate that. So thanks to those of you who are enjoying the podcast and feel free to get involved as well.
If you hate the podcast, you can also tell us that in public, but that will not get a shout out on the show.
Yes,
you have to give us a compliment to give a shout out.
Unfortunately, yes. One of my favorite comments in the early days when Thomas and I first started the show was somebody left a comment that said, run by two guys who work for the team, not going to get real information. Well, the information is real. We're not telling lies. we just may not be as critical as other people, but the information, we assure you, is real.
I'll believe it when I see it. Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas. You'll believe it when you can see this podcast. Hey, we're going to Sweden next week. I will be joining the team, headed over to Stockholm for a couple of games against the Pittsburgh Penguins on Friday and Sunday. Stay tuned to NashvillePredators.com in the days to come. We will have plenty of coverage leading up to the Sweden games and social media as well. Obviously, there will be photos and videos, all kinds of content coming your way from the NHL Global Series in Stockholm, which should be one heck of a trip as the Predators continue to try to rattle off some wins, gain some more points here. And the month of November continues. Max, it's always a pleasure.
Quite a pleasure. Don't follow Brooks's food Instagram, but follow him for his hockey talk. And we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the Predators official podcast.